Shelley Luther will spend the next week in jail. Now the judge.
One salon owner in North Texas, well, she learned that the hard way.
And a hair salon owner who had also opened up her store has been jailed. Luther tore up the citation to the cheer of the crowd.
But in Dallas, salon owner Shelley Luther faced 7 days in jail for...
So your client is in jail right now?
But yesterday, a woman by the name, and I want you to remember this name, a woman by the name of Shelley Luther in Texas.
We don't support the random jailing of, for example, the woman who's now a household name, Shelley Luther.
I thought it was terrible. I thought he was a terrible judge.
The prisoner would like to speak a word. You need to apologize. What were you thinking? He said you need to apologize to the politicians. I was like, what?
So, sir, if you think the law is more important than kids getting fed, then please go ahead with your decision, but I am not going to shut the salons.
They're putting this woman in jail because she's trying to feed her kids. The whole thing is screwed up.
Well, I'm proud to stand with Shelley Luther, and I'll tell you what happened to her was wrong.
I'm not anyone special. I just know that I have rights. You have rights to feed your children and make income. And anyone that wants to take away those rights is wrong.
We only had people in Washington, D.C. who had half the guts of this patriot. Play Shelley Luther.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Courage to Stand. I'm Shelley Luther here with you with another great guest. But first, I wanted to talk to you guys about your comments. We're getting so much positive feedback, and I would love to answer some of your questions that you're asking online. And if you go to couragetostand.com and sign up at the email, you can actually email us and ask us questions. Not the creepy ones, though, because I'm not answering those. For real, don't send creepy ones. But I will answer some of your questions online if you have them, and we can get in touch with the guests if you have more questions after that. So please feel free to talk to us, ask us questions. We want to be here for you as well. Thank you so much for watching. Today's guest, though, has the most amazing life story, and I want to introduce you to Mr. Ron Hall today. Hello.
Thank you, Shelley.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming. It's kind of a gloomy day outside in Dallas. It's been raining for like 2 weeks straight.
It is, but you know, it's beautiful here inside, and you look beautiful.
Oh,
and I am,
thank you.
I'm happy to be. I feel like I'm under all this sunshine.
You are. Your life is full of sunshine, tears and sunshine, I must say. And I really just want you to explain to the viewers kind of how the main, I guess, the main events that happened in your life that really changed you and made you who you are today. Because I really feel like, you know, with me, I had something serious happen to me, and now I'm like a totally different person. And I think, you know, we don't really have control of those things.
Yes, and I followed your story very closely because you were so brave.
Thank you.
And you had the courage to stand, which is amazing.
Thank you.
And I was really proud of you. And you know, I have to say, you know, the name of our book, the name of our story is Same Kind of Different as Me. And I would have to say that you are the same kind of different as me.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
I want to talk more about what's in your book. You wrote this book.
I did.
All right. Same Kind of Different as Me. And we'll show it more on the website so you can see it and know where to get it. You guys will not want to miss this book. But let's talk about how you got to this point.
How I got to this point.
Yes.
Well, I was a very successful art dealer after many years of buying and selling masterpieces by the most famous artists in the world, traveling the whole world. I thought, to me, life was beautiful. We had a beautiful family. We were living in a wonderful new home. Everything was great in life, except after 18 years of marriage, it was getting a little bit stale. And
which happens. And you're busy.
Yes, and I traveled, and my wife was a stay-home mom, a very faithful, wonderful community activist. She did everything perfectly. I, on the other hand, was making a lot of money and became really full of myself and thought I would reward myself with an affair. And as you can tell, those things never work out very well.
No.
And so one day I come home, I'm at a meeting with my lawyer, and he was telling me the same thing, that he was about to get a divorce, and his wife, we were having similar problems. And I said, well, I've never told anybody this, but I'm doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he went home and told his wife.
Oh, wow.
And so
yeah, when you tell somebody something, it's never a secret.
Well, tell it to your lawyer.
He didn't think that was
I guess
confident.
he thought since we were friends, maybe this wasn't really legal business. This was personal business. But he went home and told his wife. His wife called me and she said, oh, you rotten so-and-so. If you don't tell Debbie, I am. You saw that in the movie, right?
I did.
All right. And so she did. She came home and she told me that I told her that, and after the blow up, you know,
You were basically forced to tell your wife what was going on.
I was forced to tell my wife, and she was not happy. She was very angry, but you know, she went back to her room, cooled off a little bit, and she came out and she said, "I want to know, who is she?"
Mm.
And I said, I got my cell phone out, and I said, "Here she is. This is her right here." And she said, "I want to talk to her." I said, "Whoa."
Yeah, I started to say.
I didn't know you were going to say that.
Yeah, I started to say, yeah.
So the number was there on the screen, so she pushed the number and she said, "Hello, I'm Ron Hall's wife. And hold on, please don't hang up, but I just want you to know that I forgive you for what you have done with my husband."
She's a better woman than me. I'm just going to let you know.
And she said, if I had been the wife that he needed, he would not have ever done that. So I hope that you find somebody that will make you as happy as Ron has made me for these 18 years. And that if I do my job as a wife, I don't think you'll ever hear from my husband again. And she hung up the phone and she said, "It's your choice. You can choose her or you can choose me."
I'm telling you, she's a better woman than me.
Well,
I don't know. And I mean, come to find out, your wife, Debbie, she's pretty amazing. I mean, she's a pretty unique, caring individual, and definitely not the type that you walk all over. She was definitely in control of the situation.
She was.
Even though maybe you didn't know that at the time.
Well, she told me, she said, you know, here's the deal. If you choose me, I will forgive you, and I will never bring this up as long as we live, if you will never do this again. And I said, well, that's a deal that I can't refuse. And because that just never happens.
Right.
So, but she said, I will throw your sin as far as the east is from the west and never bring it up again. And I said, okay, for that, I will do anything that you ask me the rest of our lives together. Now, she said, well, the only thing I really want you to do is continue to be a good father but be faithful.
Right.
And I said, I will. So
Wait, I have to ask, did you ever talk to the other woman again afterwards?
I did after Debbie died.
Okay.
She called me and said, I've kept up with you. I read about Debbie's death. She lived in California. So
okay.
It was, and we lived in Texas. So fast forward 10 years later, she had never asked me to do anything except be faithful. And then one morning, she awakens me kind of abruptly, because she usually let me sleep. She was always up early doing her morning devotionals and things like that, and bringing me coffee in bed and and waking me up. But she woke me up. She said, "Ron, I had the most amazing dream last night." She said, "It was so incredible. I saw the face of a poor man who's wise. He's a homeless man." And she said it was like the verse in Ecclesiastes where Solomon wrote, "There was found in the city a certain poor man who was wise, and by his wisdom the city was changed and lives were changed, yet no one knew his name." And she said, "Would you please go with me into the inner city of Fort Worth in searching for this man? Because I believe if my dream is from God, and if it really is, he has something important for us." And I knew she wasn't crazy.
No, you know how faithful she is to God.
Yeah.
And at this point, she kind of had you where she wanted you, and you were trying to please her at this point still.
That's true. And I had recently begun to slow down in my art world and art business, and had become had a new passion for ranching, and I had become a cowboy and a team roper and was doing these things. So I was going to the ranch most days and not going to my art gallery in Dallas. And so that day, we got in the car and began driving through the inner city of Fort Worth, driving around.
In your very expensive car.
Well,
in the you know what I mean? Like,
yes. And people
stood
looked
out.
at me like I was trying to buy drugs or something. They were coming up, "You want some drugs? What do you want?" You know, or then other people thought I was the CIA coming to look from them for them. Maybe
you looked out of place for sure.
I did look out of place, and Debbie did too. But we drove around very slowly, and finally we didn't see the man of her dreams. So she said, "Hey, there's a homeless shelter over here. Let's go begin volunteering, because if he is in this area where all the homeless live,
he's got to go there.
Eventually he will show up for a free meal." So we began serving an evening meal at the Fort Worth Union.
You were
Gospel
very
Mission.
reluctant.
Well, I was, because, you know, I didn't mind writing a check for something, but I didn't want to get my hands dirty.
Yeah.
And in fact,
physically dirty.
You saw in the film when I walked in, that was very true. The guy was Chef Jim, and he greeted us like we were old friends. And he but the only thing I could think of, first question I asked him, "Are there any infectious diseases floating around this place that I should know about?"
As if there weren't all over the place that you've been.
Yes, of course they were. They were. And he said, "Oh, absolutely." He said, "We try to infect them all with love." I thought, "You smart aleck, why are you saying that to me?"
Yeah,
but
on
he
an
became
apron.
a great friend. He became a great friend, and as we began serving there on a daily basis, and we'd been there about 2 weeks, getting ready to serve an evening meal, when all of a sudden this giant-looking man with no shirt and no shoes and just some raggedy old unzipped khakis stormed into the dining room, not coming out of the chapel. Most men were coming out of the chapel. He was coming out of a side door. And he started screaming, "I'm going to kill whoever done it. I'm going to kill whoever stole my shoes." And he started overturning tables and breaking glass. It was destroying. It was mass pandemonium in the dining hall. I've never been so scared in my life. So I fell to my knees, not in prayer, just hiding.
Yes.
And I was behind this, if you've served before behind a big stainless steel counter, there's holes there where you stick pots and pans. So I stick my head in one of those holes, because in high school I had taken a knockout punch in the nose with the Golden Gloves. I was done with knockout punches in the nose, and I could feel it moving my way. And so all of a sudden I have my head in there and I'm hiding down, because I thought he might kill everybody in the room.
Right.
He was that
you don't know.
crazy. Well, he was that crazy, and he was huge, and I thought he was on something, but. I'd been down there a few seconds. I could still hear the pandemonium going on, but I wonder what happened to Debbie.
Yeah, I started to say, you were worried about yourself.
So I look up, and she's all excited. She's jumping up and down like a cheerleader on the sideline of a football game. And she's saying, "That's him, that's him." And I said, "That's who?" She said, "The man in my dream." I said, "Which one?" Because by then there were about 15 or 20 guys in a big fight. It had all broken out into pandemonium. And I said, "Which one?" And she said, "The one who threatened to kill everybody."
Of course it is.
Was the one that was in my dream. And she said, and she looked down at me on my knees, and she said, "And Ron, I believe I heard from God that you have to be his friend and find out if my dream is really from God." And I shot a look back at her. I said, "But Debbie, I was not at that meeting you had with God. And if I'm going to be friends with someone who wants to kill everybody, I should go talk to God myself."
Right.
And so that night I did have a little conversation with God. And though I didn't hear an audible voice, I know that he said, "Being friends with a homeless man is a small price to pay for the forgiveness that Debbie and I have shown you."
Wow.
And so for Debbie and for God, the next day, at her insistence, I began a 5-month almost daily pursuit of this man of her dreams. So,
and he was very reluctant. Of course, obviously had lived a very hard life, was not going to let anyone in.
Right.
And as we found out, not going to let a white man in. That was a big part of the story.
Big part of the story.
And come to find out, his past was horrific.
Well, it was horrific. And he had been on the streets at that point for 25 years and no one knew his name.
Mm-hmm.
They called him suicide because messing with him was the equivalent of committing suicide.
Wow.
Some people called him the lion of the jungle because said, you don't mess with the lion of the jungle. He'll hurt you. He's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
He lived by a dumpster near the mission, and the dumpster had his back, and his front was all, if you came at him, you know, you paid the price. So,
wow.
And he was amazing that he had survived 25 years on the street and people hadn't killed him when he was asleep, but he was always aware of something. He was a totally crazy man. He had been in prison, Angola State Penitentiary in Louisiana for 10 years. He had been homeless. Let's fast forward 5 months later, I get him in my car. And we're going to breakfast one morning, and this is all miraculous how this came about. And of course, we tell it in our book, The Same Kind of Different as Me. We tell it in our film. But we're at breakfast one morning, and I said, I know your name is not suicide, so you mind telling me your name? And he kind of barked at me like, I don't tell nobody my name. He said, ain't nobody business what my name is. And I said, well, in case you're interested, my name is Ron
Mm-hmm.
Hall. So he thought about it a second. He said, okay, Denver, name's Denver. I said, oh, good, Denver, nice to meet you. And he said, can you do me a favor? And I said, what is that? And he said, can you tell your woman to stop bothering me? He said, I ain't had no peace in my life since that skinny little lady showed up on the streets of Fort Worth. And I said, no, I really can't.
You're like,
tell
I'm really,
her.
no,
I
you
can't
don't
get-"
understand.
Well, first of all, he said, can you get control of your woman?
Yeah,
I said,
no.
no, I cannot.
No.
So anyway, he said, what is it you want from me? Man, you driving me crazy. Y'all keep chasing me everywhere I look up. Y'all chasing me.
Mm-hmm.
And he would go hide in the bushes or in the hobo jungles. And
He thought you were like the CIA or something.
he did.
Like,
He
yeah.
did think we were the CIA. Because, you know, he had a lot of warrants for his arrest.
Yeah.
A lot. As I went later in the story, as I took him, as we became friends and took him to get a driver's license, we walked into the DPS department and they put his name in the computer and it started smoking, you know. And the lady looked at me and she said, I'm going to give you a chance to leave. I know you're a nice man trying to do a favor to this guy, but you guys need to leave here right now because
that's good.
you will be arrested.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it turns out to be a really great story. And come to find out, it was such a great story, you had to write about it, right? And then it also became a movie.
Right.
A major motion picture.
It did.
Paramount.
Mm-hmm.
This is the greatest story. You guys will not want to miss what happens with this. We'll be right back. The following are sponsors for today's show. If you'd like to become a sponsor, please visit us at couragetostand.com. Amy Autry offers customized health insurance options. She's licensed and appointed with multiple health insurance and health share companies, so she can review all your health insurance needs, advise, enroll, and support you ongoing with your policy. Amy has over 6 years of experience as a health insurance broker to save you time and money in shopping and enrolling in a customized health plan that fits your needs and budget. Her services are free, so give her a call at 817-809-4409. That's Amy Autry at 817-809-4409. Looking to buy or sell real estate in North Texas? The Neal team with Better Homes and Gardens Winans specialize in residential and farm and ranch properties. Call our friends Donnie and Darla at 903-744-5475 or email neal@winansbhg.com. Just one call, and as Donnie says, the pretty blonde and the ugly cowboy can put the power of two to work for you. Your journey starts here. Again, Donnie and Darla Neal at 903-744-5475. Jara Hutchins owns Clearing the Chamber, a female-owned firearms and self-defense training company that specializes in teaching women, youth, and families how to stay safe. We have a class for everything, including intro to handgun, time management for the gun owner, how to talk to your kids about firearms, license to carry, and how to protect what you're expecting, a class for new and expecting mothers. We have all 5-star reviews on Facebook and respond quickly to your questions. Give us a call at 469-665-9333 or email clearingthechamber@gmail.com and schedule your free consultation. Again, that consultation is free. Just give us a call at 469-665-9333. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Courage to Stand. I'm sitting here with my guest, Ron Hall, the author of Same Kinda Different as Me. That is now a major motion picture that you guys can see. I watched it last night and I was a hot mess. I'm just going to let you know, I know, my eyes are red today. I am tired, but I was crying through this whole movie. It was so good. So we need to talk more about what happens, and then we'll tell everybody how they can watch this, because, I mean, it has Renee Zellweger that plays your wife. I don't want Djimon Hounsou.
Yes, he's been nominated for 2 Academy Awards. People know him for Blood Diamond, from Gladiator, from many, many things. He is one of the busiest actors in Hollywood.
He's so good in the movie.
And of course, Greg Kinnear played me, and one of my all-time favorite actors, John Voight, played my father.
And he was great. And that's a whole nother story in itself.
That is a whole nother story.
You can watch the movie to get a sense of that.
Yes, I've written another book about that. I'm waiting to publish, because we're also trying to do maybe a TV series on the whole thing.
Yes. So let's talk about dinner. Or you're sitting, it was lunch or breakfast.
Yeah.
It was breakfast. You were sitting with Denver.
Denver.
After 5 months of pursuing his friendship, you finally learn each other's names.
Right.
And he does make a joke about why do white people catch and release fish?
Well,
he didn't understand it.
First of all, this is what happened was, he says, "What is it you want from me?" And I said, "Hey, man, I just want to be your friend." But that was actually a lie. I didn't want to be his friend.
Debbie wanted you to be his friend.
Debbie wanted me to be his friend.
Yes.
And I was paying penance for my sins to Debbie by being his friend, or trying to be his friend. So he looked at me with this incredulous look, and he said, "You want to be my friend? Whew, man, I'm going to have to think about that." And I thought, hey, buddy, you just looked a gift horse in the mouth.
Right.
You don't know who I am. And, I'm rich and you're poor, and you are the man of my wife's dreams. So if you want it, if she wants,
I'm handing it to you right now.
You can have the keys to the car. You can have I can get you an apartment, a house, clothes, anything that my wife wants you to have, you're going to have, because you are the man of her dreams. And so I was just so arrogant. I thought, here is a man who has nothing to offer me, and yet he wants to think about being my friend.
Right. That made you even more mad.
Oh, it did. So a few days later, I go to visit him like I did almost on a daily basis, and he's by his dumpster that morning, and I said, "You want to go get some coffee?" And he said, "Yeah." So we go get in our car, and we go to Starbucks. And we're sitting on the sidewalk at Starbucks, and he said, "I've been thinking a lot about what you asked me." I said, "What did I ask you that required any thought?" He said, "Well, you asked me if I'd be your friend." I said, "I sure did. So what do you think about that?" He said, "Now, tell you the truth, there's something I heard about white folks that really bothers me, and it's got to do with fishing." I said, "Well, Denver, I'm a cowboy and an art dealer, but I don't know anything about fishing. I don't even own a tackle box." He said, "But I bet you can answer this question." I said, "Okay, so ask." He said, "Okay." He said, "I heard when white folks go fishing, they do this thing they call catch and release." I said, "Well, of course they do, Denver. It's a sport. You don't get it?" He said, "No, sir, I don't get it. Because back on the plantation where I grew up in Louisiana, we'd go out in the morning, we'd cut us a cane pole and dig us a can full of worms. And when we finally got something on our line, we would be proud of it, and we'd take it back and share it with all the folk." So he said, "It occurred to me, if you just a white man fishing for a friend, and you gonna catch and release, I ain't got no desire to be your friend."
Not interested. He thought, like, if you want to use me.
That's right. But he said, "But if you's fishing for a real friend, I'll be your friend for life." And I thought, oh my goodness. My mind flashed back to Debbie's dream of a poor man who was wise, because what he spoke to me at that moment was the wisest thing I'd ever heard on friendship. And I said, "Okay, Denver, if you'll be my friend." This was at the moment that our lives changed. So you had that moment in your life when your life changed just on a minute. Mine is the same way. I thought, if I say this is really going to alter the course of my life. This is going to repaint the picture of my life and rewrite my life story. It's all at this moment, right now.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I tell him this, I have to stick to it.
You do. He's holding you accountable.
Yeah. So I said, okay, I'll be your friend. So he said, then you got a friend for life. And I said, you do too.
Wow.
So the next morning, I go visit him at his dumpster. And I take a seat on the curb next to this stinking dumpster on a dangerous inner city street of Lancaster Avenue in Fort Worth. And I sit next to him, and he's scary looking, and he smells like sardines. And it was like, oh man, what did I get myself into? Yeah. And I start trying to look at him. He's just staring at me. He's not saying a word. And so I thought, well, maybe I should say something to him. So I said, what's it like to be homeless?
Oh, gosh.
And he looked at me and said, I don't know. Why don't you tell me? I said, but Denver, I've never been homeless. I said, I live in a very nice home. He said, let me tell you something, Mr. Ron. Whether we is rich or whether we's poor or something in between, this earth ain't no final resting place. So in a way, we all homeless, just working our way home. That's the title of my new book that tells the rest of the story.
Which I cannot wait to read this. So this is the story of how you met, right. and how, you know, this story went through as for how you met and how that came about. This is afterward. And
yes.
because when you watch the movie, I watched it last night, like I said, it was a hot mess. You're left with wanting more, like, no, what happened afterward? Did you stay friends with him and all of that stuff? So I'm so glad to see this this morning when you came in. I cannot wait to read this. And I hope you do make a movie out of this one too, or something.
Yeah.
It's so good. I'm so excited to watch this. So what happened?
When he said, you're all home, we all home, are working our way home, I thought, this is a wise man. That's wisdom that's coming from him. And then he looked at me and he said, is you one of them Christians? And thinking briefly, he might have seen a halo over my head. I looked around, and I did not see a halo, for good reason. And I said, yes, why do you think I'm down here helping? He said, helping? You think by putting some spaghetti on a plate or giving a man a dollar bill, you helping him? He said, no, you blessing us, but you ain't helping us. If you want to help us, you got to crawl down in the ditch with us. And when we're strong enough to crawl out on your back, then you helped us. But other than that, don't be telling people you're down here helping nobody, because you ain't helping nobody but yourself. Feel better about yourself, because you probably ain't done nothing for nobody but yourself in a long time.
Wow.
So, and he said, but that ain't what I want to talk to you about, you Christians. And I said, well, what do you want to know about us Christians? He said, well, we want to know, all of us folks on the street want to know, why is it that all you Christians worship one homeless man on Sunday, then turn your back on the first one you see on Monday?
Wow.
He said, Mr. Ron, you never know whose eyes God is watching you out of, and it ain't going to be your preacher or your Sunday school teacher. He said, it might be a fellow that looked like me. He said, now it ain't me, but it might be a fellow that looked like me, God checking you out to see what kind of person you really are. He said, you know, when y'all look at us, y'all see us as a problem. But when God sees us through his eyes, he sees us as an opportunity for the faithful to show his love.
Wow.
And I thought, wow, what have I gotten myself into? This is the wisest man.
The wisest man.
And at that moment, I said, okay, this is someplace I need to be and a person I need to hear from. So I affectionately say, on that morning, I enrolled in the University of Denver.
Yeah.
And his classroom was a stinking dumpster on an inner city curb. And he was the wisest man I ever met.
Wow.
And a few months into our friendship of sitting daily on that curb, soaking in his wisdom, so beautiful. He told me one day, he said, Mr. Ron, what Miss Debbie is doing for the homeless, she's become precious to God. He said, when you become precious to God, you become important to Satan. He said, watch your backside, something bad getting ready to happen.
Wow.
3 days later, she was diagnosed with cancer, the healthiest woman I've ever known. Out of nowhere, she was diagnosed with cancer. The doctors said that she might live 6 months. Some doctors, the most optimistic, said a year. Well, the good news is she lived 19 months. And during that 19 months, the man that I once thought had nothing to offer me in a friendship was the person that God chose to be the greatest encouragement to us through the darkest days of our lives. And every morning he would show up on our front door or the hospital, wherever Debbie was, and he would bring us a fresh word of encouragement that he had gleaned from hours on his knees, staying up all night long by his dumpster, praying for our family and for Debbie. And on the final day of her life, he came to say, I've talked to God last night and he wanted me to bring a message to Miss Debbie. So he went into her bedroom and the man, and he told her, he said, Miss Debbie, I was talking to God last night and he told me that the only reason you've been holding on so long is because you don't know who's going to take care of God's people. Well, she called the homeless God's people. And he said, but God told me to tell Miss Debbie to lay down her torch in Denver, you pick it up and carry it for her for the rest of your life. He said, so that's what I'm going to do. And
did he say that at her funeral?
Yes, he did. He did. And and then the man who, we didn't go in this earlier, but he had, as a teenager, he had been roped and dragged by the Ku Klux Klan for helping a white woman change a flat tire on the plantation in Louisiana. And the Klan made him promise to never again speak to a white woman. And so, but he kneeled beside her bed, gave her a kiss on the forehead and said, I'll see you on the other side. And her final words to me were, Ron, please don't give up on Denver. God is going to bless your friendship in a way you can never imagine. And 3 days later, he preached her funeral. And he told the crowd, he said, I was a bad man on the streets for 25 years. He said, I was full of hell. And he said, but Miss Debbie, she kept blessing me and never gave up on me. And she kept blessing me until she finally just blessed the hell right out of me.
Literally blessed the hell out of you.
Yes.
Oh, man.
And and she asked him to share another dream she had for a beautiful new homeless mission in Fort Worth. And so he told the crowd and shared that dream. And when he got through sharing, he got a standing ovation from more than 1,000 people at a funeral.
At a funeral.
He got a standing ovation, something I've never seen before, and I don't doubt if I'll ever see it again. But
well, here's the thing, too. You never thought, years before that, you would have a homeless man speaking at your wife's funeral.
That's true.
It
was.
It's a lot.
And so after he spoke, he got a standing ovation, and by noon the next day, more than $500,000 came in as seed money to build this. Now, this 20 years later, more than $50 million has poured into that mission. And now the finest homeless mission in all of America is in downtown Fort Worth Union Gospel Mission. And it is, it's the most comprehensive rehabilitation program for homeless anywhere in America.
I love that you call it a program. It's not just, let me give you a meal and we'll be done with you. You're really trying to get these people on their feet.
It's all about changing lives and making them productive again and giving them confidence. And so, but that's the...
Debbie would be so proud.
Yes, she would. And the chapel there is named after her. But Denver moved in with me, and then he and I traveled all across America, and we've helped raise more than $110 million for the homeless all across America.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing, I don't even know, now y'all can see why I was such a hot mess watching this movie last night, and just our small discussion does not even come close to describing what happened and how this completely changed your life. It's almost like God was preparing you through Debbie. He knew Debbie wasn't going to be around. He wanted to make sure that you changed your ways a little bit.
Yes, and you can, in this book, you will find out how Denver, became not only a millionaire, but he became the #1 New York Times best-selling author, the first in the history of the New York Times best-selling list that did not know how to read and write when he wrote his book.
This is so amazing. Yeah. And unfortunately, he passed away in 2012 because I would have loved to meet him. He seems like an amazing man.
You can watch him on YouTube, some of his talks. He got, in the end, he became an artist. He painted over 500 paintings. He sold them all. He was honored by the Bush family at the White House. And as we were leaving the White House that day, he started laughing, and I said, I said, what is so funny, Denver? He said, Mr. Ron, just think about this. I done gone from living in the bushes to eating with the bushes. He said, God bless America. This is a great country.
Oh my gosh, that is so awesome.
Yeah.
You guys, well, on that note, how do, are these on Amazon, or where can people buy these books?
Anywhere in the world, yeah.
And we will list them, of course, on our website, couragetostand.com, and all of our social media. Mr. Ron Hall, it is such a pleasure meeting you, and your story is truly inspiring. It's not a handout. It's definitely an opportunity for him to show what a great person he was.
Yes.
So thank you so much for what you're doing. We'll put more where you can reach out, and because Ron's not just doing this. You're full of all of these things that you're doing right now. We want to make sure that people get to see this.
That's the Ron Hall Show.
The Ron Hall Show.
Yeah.
You're thinking of making this maybe a series.
A TV series, yes. A Broadway play.
Broadway play, which is right up mine and Tim's alley, because we are musicians. So go check these out. Read this book before you watch the movie, and you'll be a hot mess like I was, but it's a great hot mess. It's a great story, great for kids. And I just want to thank you guys for watching. Make sure you share this story, because we need more stories like this going around. We need happy. We need happy. Thank you, Mr. Hall, for coming. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Shelley. You bet. Bye-bye.
Bye, you guys. Thank you.